The Walt Disney Company is preparing to go nuclear against those studios that refuse to play Jimmy Kimmel on their airwaves. The stations that say no, Kimmel is too crass for the nation, now facing, according to Fox News, a bruising response. But how will that play out with Americans across the country? Well, we've got answers, folks, and let's get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, yes, we still use that kind of language here. Welcome back to the Pro Channel, where we continue to go where the Holly Weirds simply can't. Truth with a capital T, served up on a platter of chatter. You better believe in it, because we do. Folks, as we dive in, click the like button, share, subscribe, drop a comment down below, let us know your thoughts, and the time is ripe to click that hype button. Let's talk about what's going on, a battle royale between Disney and the stations that say no to Jimmy Kimmel. All right, folks, take a look at this. We have out of, let's see, this is 3, WCAX. That's what we have this out of. Bernie Sanders demands Nexstar return Jimmy Kimmel to its ABC affiliates. Okay, Bernie Sanders is now saying you have to play Jimmy Kimmel, even if, because Nexstar is one of the affiliates that owns all these ABC stations, they're refusing to put Jimmy Kimmel back on the air. Bernie Sanders is saying that, hey, you billionaires, you've got to play my favorite millionaire, Jimmy Kimmel. Okay, well, that's an interesting thing. Then we've got out of The Advocate, hosted by Yahoo News, from Christopher Wiggins, Democrats demand answers after Jimmy Kimmel blackout from Nexstar and Sinclair media companies. Now, remember, again, we're talking about the stations that have said to Disney, no, we're not going to put on Jimmy because he has offended so many of our viewers. It's damaging to our business if we do so. Here is the reconciliatory methodology by which we'll put him back on. It's an apology. He has to say he's sorry. Jimmy Kimmel has not said he's sorry. You may have thought he said that. He put on all of the crying voice, the vocalizations, but he never said, actually, I'm sorry. He never said, I wouldn't do that again. He just said, I understand if you're angry. That's different. House Democrats are intensifying their probe into the Trump administration's violations of the First Amendment. Oh, are we just asserting it so? By pressuring media companies, zeroing in on Nexstar Media Group's decision to block Jimmy Kimmel Live, even after ABC, that's Disney, restored the show. In a 6-page Wednesday letter to Nexstar CEO Perry Sook, gay representative... What? Who wrote this? The Advocate? We're just throwing in the bedroom preferences of people as if it's a title now? What the... Gay representative, I got to read it, folks, as they write it. Come on. Gay representative Robert Garcia of California, the ranking Democrat on the Oversight Committee, and perhaps heterosexual representative Maxwell Alejandro Frost. I got to do it, folks. They've held me to a standard, darn it. The top Democrat on its Economic Growth Subcommittee accused the company of aiding what they called a campaign of censorship orchestrated by the White House and enforced through the FCC. The House Dems say the FCC's apparent weaponization of its federal regulatory authority and your company's preemption of programming that may be critical of President Trump represents a dangerous escalation in attacks on press freedom and protected speech. This corrupt political intimidation is unacceptable. Final thing, folks. Final thing. It's not just the government that is going to wage war now and say you must put Jimmy on the screen. But look at what Grum's Mark Kern, who is, of course, we've had him on the channel. He is one of the most important visionaries and creators inside the video game industry. Mark says this, look how hard they fight just for Jimmy. If the right wants to survive, they need to fight just as hard and pull out every single power move for Charlie, that's Kirk, in business and politics. Otherwise, the left will, for sure, do it to you and worse. And this is what he's referencing. This is a rumor right now, folks. Breaking, and I guess Fox News is reporting this rumor. Disney is allegedly planning to drop the hammer and go nuclear against the stations that refuse to put Jimmy Kimmel on across the nation. They're saying, allegedly again, that what Disney may do is tell those affiliates, we refuse to give you Monday Night Football. That is really something. You are offended by a guy who lied on your screen about a national tragedy, about the murder of Charlie Kirk. If you won't put him back on, if you won't put our jerk back on your TV screens and damage yourselves with your markets, you don't get football. Christian, how's that for How's that for Bob Iger fighting back against Eisner's complaints that he's too weak?
I mean, over the years, I've heard that Disney will play hardball early and often. So if true, it's hardly surprising. That just sounds like it's going to be settled in the courts. That's a huge issue. I think that the affiliate companies as Nexstar and Sinclair, they should also show some receipts now. I mean, maybe amount of calls they've received, emails or something, kind of let us know exactly why the pressure has been intense and why they've made those moves. I think that would sort of help their case in the court of public opinion. But it's fascinating who will fight for what and why and where. And again, there have been so many attacks on free speech and elements of the left, and Disney's a left-leaning company. They've just been out. They've checked out. And I've been aghast. I mean, this is what I've been covering aggressively for the last decade. And, it's almost a little bit like the book banning thing when they ban a book that has a lot of sexual content and everyone freaks out. Well, the book isn't banned per se. You can get it in most stores or any store. But the fight for Jimmy Kimmel, at the end of the day, he's just a hack. He's just a hard partisan guy. And I don't think he's really changing any hearts and minds at all. I mean, he's feeding the base, but the base can be fed by any number of platforms. I mean, if I'm a progressive and I don't see Jimmy, I'll go Colbert or I'll go, the Pod Save America gang or something. I mean, again, I don't want to silence his voice, but the furor behind this is fascinating.
Well, Christian, let's talk the mechanics of it, because you may know more than I do on this one. This is out of my typical purview. We know that the affiliates can refuse to air something they find offensive. And you're right. I think they should bring the receipts. I also think that there was a tactical mistake made when they said that Jimmy Kimmel would have to, and it was one of them, not both, but one of them said Jimmy Kimmel would have to do some things beyond just apologizing.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a tenable possibility. I don't think it's going to happen. So I think that was a tactical mistake. Maybe there's some strategy I don't know there. But okay, so we know the affiliates can refuse to put offensive content that they deem offensive to their markets or to their customers on the screen. Can Disney do it the opposite way? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if Disney can look at the affiliates and say, because you won't air this for us, we're not going to transmit a nationally televised football game to you. I don't know if the contracts work that way or not.
I don't either. I don't have the legal expertise on that one, honestly, but it feels like an escalation, that's for sure.
Vash, will you reach out to Lou and ask him if Lou, if you're out there, we'd love to have you on the channel. I know you know the answer to that. We'd love to have you on. Vash, I saw you getting ready to weigh in, though. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Well, this is very interesting on a number of levels. I do remember seeing this from Grums right there. This is a huge escalation, as Toto actually mentioned, and I do have to wonder about a couple of things. If the FCC wants to go ahead and remove licenses, that happens with the affiliates first, if I'm not mistaken, right? So they're kind of more beholden to the FCC and their guidelines. I thought, and maybe even ABC was, but I could be wrong about that. Two, the other thing about this is that doesn't this kind of endanger the deal that Disney is trying to strike with the NFL in regards to ESPN and the ownership stake and so forth? That's a big time deal. I don't think the NFL would much appreciate their product being a sort of a semi-bargaining chip in this whole
right, and that's going to diminish the ratings. You got to think at least 20%, but probably up to 40% because people are going to get angry. You got to think it would diminish the ratings for the NFL games. That's not good. And the advertisers are going to get mad. This gets real ugly real fast, and it might wind up in the court system. Nat, let me ask you, though. This is a full-blown war that is breaking out that pulls the narrative away about what it should be about, and that is a young man was murdered for the crime of free speech on a college campus. And this has been what has broken out as the battle over it is, can a man come out and lie about that and disparage his memory and insult the people who believed in what he had to say? Not a crazy guy, just a guy who held traditional Christian views. The left is saying, you can't touch us. You can't touch our guy for lying about that kind of thing. And now we're into like trying to block football games and politicians are wanting investigations. Nat, I don't think that I don't think that those who support Jimmy are ever going to back down. And that means I don't know where the off-ramp is for all of this. I see this heading into major conflict. What do you think?
Well, and that's the thing. They're not used to this happening to them. I guess this side, we are
That's a great
kind of
point.
used to, and we do expect it because it has been happening for the past, 15, 10 years. And so for them, they're grasping at straws because they didn't know this could happen. So for them, it's a huge attack on free speech. But for the rest of us, it's more like, well, you've been doing this for the longest time to everybody else with much harsher consequences as well. Again, debanking and going after social media accounts and then laughing about it on national TV. And as with the whole free speech issue, you have the right to say it anywhere you want, but we're not obligated to listen to you. And there's no right for you to be listened to by all the nation, especially after you've offended them. And then you come out again, almost doubling down and saying, I'm sorry, you're too dumb to understand what I actually meant, which that was his apology. He said,
Right.
I'm sorry, you're dumb enough that you're too dumb to understand that that's not what I meant and you misunderstood it. And then the president cannot take a joke. And it's more like, well, it wasn't a joke you should be making at this time. And I think they're just too much in the bubble. And with Disney and everybody else trying to keep him on, it's because they're the useful tools of, in my opinion, propaganda for that. And they're seeing it.
Yeah.
They're seeing themselves losing it. And they're too scared to admit that most people aren't even listening to it, but they think they are because of the bubble they live in.
I think you're exactly right. The problem here, Christian, is we've become more bifurcated than ever before. We live in two completely different realities.
Yeah.
Our entertainment now is splitting into the legacy media, the new media. The new media is winning. But I don't know how we bridge this gap. I don't know how we bring back our society. I feel like no matter what we do, there's this divorce happening. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how to take that back yet. What do you think? What do you see? Because we're watching completely different things. And even when we watch what transpires together, we see it in a way that doesn't match up at all.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. And it's a real cultural problem that's huge and far beyond this particular fight. You know, it's funny. I saw several different major news outlets, maybe Rolling Stone was one of them, that basically said Jimmy Kimmel didn't say what you thought he said. Well, yeah. We're all adults. We all heard it. We saw the clip. We saw the context. No, we know. We don't need an outlet telling us, no, don't believe your eyes and ears. This is what actually happened. And, you know, we can spend days talking about media bias and the corruption in the media. But of course, the media has handled itself in such a reprehensible fashion about this entire Jimmy Kimmel situation, misdirections, fawning over Jimmy. It's just embarrassing. And it legitimately hurts the country. I've always applauded the fact that an MSNBC exists, because if you're liberal, that's maybe what you want to get your content. But we do need, as a country, some of these more neutral platforms to exist and to be trustworthy. So if I go to the Washington Post, I'm not looking for rah-rah. I'm not looking for red meat. I'm looking for news. And they just don't deliver it anymore. And the New York Times hides important stories, platforms unimportant stories, ignores significant events. It's the New York Times. It's the landscape we're in right now. And while, new media is often more honest and more sobering and more balanced, they have their own biases too. And so we're all getting siloed, but it would be great to just get some flat out information. I'm a conservative, but I don't want to hear rah-rah stuff on my side. And I don't want my side and my news outlets to give me false information or misinformation or ignore significant issues where I'm misinformed. I don't want that either. We all should have some sort of hunger. So it's a very bad situation. I don't see it getting better. It seems to be getting worse. And the people who are the most egregious in sharing untruths, I just hope they go away. I hope the market just chases them out.
Toto, I cannot believe that you would disparage the great lady like that. Come on, New York Times. No, I'm joking. They disparage themselves. But I just want to parse this out too. Okay, so we know that, I think the Wall Street Journal reported that one of the big reasons why Disney was wanting to get Jimmy Kimmel back on the air was because they obviously had an obligation to ad sales, right? To advertisements that they had already sold, ad blocks they already sold. Okay, those advertisements would obviously be affected by withholding something like Monday Night Football or the NFL from those various affiliates. My thing is are you are you cutting off your own nose to spite your face in that particular instance? You're getting hit on now both sides here. I don't think that's a really good strategy, and I think maybe the affiliates realize that. I would think.
Well, I think Disney, from their side, they believe they can bully, anybody. They're not afraid at all of these affiliates. They're going to do their best to, either win or burn it down.
They tried to bully Florida. How'd that work out for them?
Yeah, that went great. Well, Florida's a little bit bigger than affiliates. But here's what let me posit this and see what you guys think. Because this is going to put me a little bit farther out beyond where I know for sure that what I'm saying is true. And so let's examine it together. One of the things that might be happening here, one of the reasons that we might be seeing politicians and government officials, and why we might be seeing so much pushback against firing Jimmy Kimmel, which they didn't do, or even pausing Jimmy Kimmel, or even the FCC guy saying, I don't like Jimmy Kimmel. I think that there was a wave, the aftershock of what happened to Charlie Kirk. I think there was a wave of terminations happening all across the country. People, for the first time in forever, were being held accountable for saying despicable, awful things, and they were being let go from their places of work because they said, we can't have you employed. You're celebrating suffering. Like, that's an anti-human position. So, yes, your politics are your politics, but what you posted on social media makes us look terrible. And frankly, some of your coworkers are afraid to work with you now. So I think that was happening. And in that environment, maybe Jimmy Kimmel was the biggest guy to suffer that fate. And the left perhaps decided, the legacy media perhaps decided, the politicians, but I digress, decided that this had to be the example. This had to be the line in the sand to stop that movement that was happening where people who said despicable and awful things and celebrated death, that they were being fired and let go. And Jimmy Kimmel was the one that they said, this is going to end. We're going to bring back your ability to be offensive and say anti-human things because Jimmy Kimmel's coming back to the airwaves. I don't know. It's my theory on why Jimmy Kimmel struck such a nerve. I could be wrong. Panel, final thoughts on that? Feel free to disagree. I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether or not that's why we have such a vociferous response to Jimmy Kimmel going bye-bye for a few days.
And this is why I'm playing that role here, because you gotta remember that this was actually even after Jimmy Kimmel's initial comments right there. That was the mindset. That was the temperature of the country, or of so many, involving this whole horrible incident here. And that's the time that Jimmy used to both make fun of this and also of Trump. But please go ahead.
And even then, I think the most egregious part is that there's no, for lack of any better word, adult on their side to say, hey, we can't do the equivalence of what happened, the tragedy, the national tragedy that happened to Charlie Kirk versus a man being pulled from a show for a week. It was only a week. And they came out, they're still doing it. They're still going on with it, when the focus should be on why is nobody pushing against it from that side, because there has been people pushing against it on the conservative side and trying to talk about the importance of free speech and the Jimmy Kimmel, etc. But there's no one on that side saying, hey, Charlie Kirk was obviously a bigger tragedy than Jimmy Kimmel losing his show for a week. And I think that just tells us where the temperature is in the States right now. Well,
one thing I'd like to add to that, you're exactly right. What makes me so, I don't want to say sad, what bothers me so is that I think that people who express conservative views are actually in danger, right? I actually think that there's a problem that we have not yet addressed fully, that there's a not insignificant portion of our society that thinks it's okay to use violence. And I don't know if it's 5 or 15%, but everybody who celebrates and glorifies death, they'll celebrate and glorify if you have your demise. That's a real problem. And so we're not getting to have that national conversation right now. That's a mature conversation we need to have. And we need to hash that out. And we need to force out the idea that you can hurt other people in order to get your political will. And I think that by what we're doing right now, I actually think that there are going to be more events. And that makes me deeply dissatisfied, the idea that we're going to have more events. We just had one the other day where somebody in Dallas went and again wrote messages on the casings of weapons and fired indiscriminately and killed some people. I'm afraid we're not having the national discussion because we're sidebarred on Jimmy Kimmel. And I'm sorry, but a low ratings, no funny comedian is not worth the time of day compared to us having that kind of a talk, a sit down as a nation. It's not happening. And
I think it's a really
so.
good point. And I would just to quickly add a couple little anecdotes. One, I heard Ben Shapiro talking about appearing in public and security, and he kind of just offhandedly said, "Yeah, my team suggests I wear a bulletproof vest." I mean, Ben Shapiro, a slightly built man who just talks. And then, Eric Erickson is a conservative podcaster and radio show host, and he talked about how he doesn't really go out as much and speak as much because they have to have security for him, and that he can't afford it, or it's onerous to him from a fiscal point of view. And just I may have mentioned this on this show before. If not, I want to say it again. I went to 2 events in the last maybe 5 or 6 months that were Jewish themed. One was a Jewish documentary being shown. Another was at a Jewish place of worship or congregation, and both times there were security officers all over the place. That's the new normal, and we don't talk about it.
Yeah, and I think churches and synagogues all over the country and the world are going to have to do that. I'll tell you, folks, we don't normally look behind the curtain here at Casa de Pro, and we talk about we're in Somewhere Sunny USA, and we are. But I've got some folks that we'll be meeting with soon in my undisclosed location, and we had to go over security stuff. We had to talk about, where can we meet and what will we do? I'm not on camera, but some of them might be.
Yeah.
And, it's not a world that I want to be in where people are afraid and we have to go through these kinds of steps, but we do. And we need to be addressing that. Instead, the conversation has been hijacked by a very immature man and a very immature company ran by Bob Iger. It's a shame, folks, but we will continue to talk about the things that matter right here. Good night, game over, drive home safely. Folks, this video is done. But before we all head home, we only ask one thing. Folks, as you get ready to head on out, consider clicking that like button, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to those pesky algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below and share your thoughts, for a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Waste not that beautiful personality of yours. And folks, we would say as you get ready to head out the door, that it has been an honor to spend time with you, an attitude of gratitude each and every time that you elect to join together with us. Breaking bread and breaking entertainment, well, the industry. No, we like entertainment. It's the industry that irks us sometimes. Well, it was a good time. We hope you had a good time. Folks, until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun. Jump into the water!
Why listen to music made by people and companies who really don't like you? Check out Vacation Radio today and prepare for all new content made by the people behind the WDW Pro channel. It's the place you need for all the music. That should be fun. Hundreds of songs, every genre you can imagine. Listen live on YouTube and enjoy a set list that's always sunny. It's Vacation Radio. What are you waiting for? Every WDW Pro video has a link to Vacation Radio in the video description. Try it out and subscribe today.